You know, recently, a lot of people have been calling me famous. And just this morning, I was fueling up the truck at the Flying J in Nisku, Alberta, Canada. And some gentleman walked over to me and he said, "You must be the famous SERGEI." And I never seen him in my life. I said, "What, you watch my YouTube channel?" He says, "Yeah." So it turns out he's a freight broker from Calgary. Gave me his business card, so we chatted for a while. So it's kind of fun, and this is not the first time this happens. Once even I was at the seaport in Baltimore, Maryland, I think, and I went over to one guy to ask him about the procedure, you know, if you have to pay something to get into that private terminal. And before answering, the guy looked at me and he said, "Wait a second, you have a YouTube channel, right?" So it's kind of weird, you know, it's like, I'm not exactly used to this, so I started thinking about, you know, being rich and famous. And of course, I guess when we're kids, you know, when we're younger, we all want to be rich and famous. It's just a thing. It happens that I think these are two exclusive categories. You know, you can be rich, but it's hard to be famous at the same time. So just to give you a little background, because I think some people might not know this, but I was trained as a teacher of English, and I worked for a short while in Russia. Okay, neither rich nor famous. And then my purpose was to make some serious money, because I grew up in a middle-class family, like military father, you know, construction engineer mom, and we never had too much money. They had to borrow always, like when they bought a car, they had to borrow. Of course, the apartment was free at that time, like we were just paying rentals. It was all rentals. Everything belonged to the government. And I moved to Moscow, Russia by myself, and started working in real estate. First as an agent. I tried working as a translator, but it was just crazy. Not enough money there, too much stress. You know, I worked for some crazy Indian guy who was bargaining for every cent or kopeck he was paying to a cab driver. So I was like his assistant slash translator slash negotiator. And I only stayed like 2 weeks, and that's it. But when I rented an apartment, I noticed how easy it was for these agents, real estate agents, you know, to make money. And they always worked with people, and I kind of like that. So I applied at the same company where I rented my apartment from, and I started doing the same thing. Started renting apartments, acting as agent for the broker. And in those days, like early 90s, that was real easy. All you had to do was to run 2 ads, you know, in the same paper. Apartments for rent, apartments wanted. That's it. The people that had apartments, they would call you, and there were no exclusive contracts. So basically, if I had an apartment for rent, I would call everybody I can find, you know, all agents, all the real estate brokers that advertised, and no one believed in exclusive contracts, because there was no point for the landlord, because there was so much demand. And actually the fee, the commission was paid by the tenant, not like it's the opposite situation in Canada and the US, right? Here the buyer, no, wait a second, who pays the fee? Oh yeah, the owner of the property, right? Over there it's the buyer of the tenant paid the commission. And I think at that time it was like 10%. So I was renting the apartment. I think it was like $500 a month. No, yeah, I think it was equal to 1 month rent. Yeah, that's what it was. But then because I spoke English, these guys didn't want to work with expats, or what we call them in Russia, foreigners. And because it was taking too long, people would go look at the same apartment 3, 4, 5 times, bring their relatives, you know, their colleagues from work, so it was taking forever. But then, instead of $500 apartment that you usually rent to a Russian guy, you can rent a $2,000 apartment to an expat, because he would take something like, you know, really posh, high class. And I figured, hey, that's what I want to do. I don't want to rent 30 apartments a month and deal with people that don't want to pay. They always try to screw you, you know. That's the reality of the Russian market, at least back then. So I'd rather rent 4 apartments at $2,000 and get a commission of $2,000 from each apartment. And so I went on my own. At that time, you didn't need any license or anything. Like by law, anyone could be a real estate broker. So I started renting apartments. And why I'm telling you all this is that how I became rich. Well, by local standards. So I went into this, started making good money, bought a car, you know. Never bought an apartment because I didn't believe in real estate back then myself. And then I switched to offices. Actually, one of the friends I knew, she was an American, she said, why don't you go into commercial real estate? You can make more money. So I tried that, and after a while it started to work. And at one point I had $100,000 US in my account, all legal, all from real estate transactions where I acted as a broker. Now imagine this is 1993 or 1994, and I have $100,000 US in a Moscow bank. You know, at that time you could buy an apartment in downtown Moscow for like maybe 30,000 bucks. Brand new Toyota was 20,000, and a Lada, like a Russian car, brand new, was 6,000. So with the money I had at that time, I could have bought, you know, 20, just under 20 Russian Ladas. So it was great. So I was rich, you know. I would fly to Europe for vacations, you know. I never left Canada. Like maybe once I went to, twice I went to Moscow, Russia, right? But back then, that's when I was making all the money in real estate. And I never bought any clothes from a Russian store. There were some... There were stores that only took hard currency, as we call it, like US dollars. So I bought all my clothes in there. I had my first, you know, cell phone. It was amazing. But one of the reasons I achieved all that, because I was really motivated. You know, I saw that was my like sole purpose in life, was to be rich. And for me to be rich was the nice round number, $100,000. And I had it written everywhere, you know, just to remind me. And I still remember the marquee on my computer, you know, that thing you can create, like when your computer goes into sleep mode, you can create that marquee, a running line, and I had USD $100,000. So, you know, US dollars 100,000. So as soon as my computer went to sleep, I had that line, you know, and I'm sitting somewhere there, you know, talking on the phone, and then I see this bright pink line goes across the screen. And it always reminded me, and I read all these books about setting goals and motivations, you know, like even I think back then I bought a book from US by Brian Tracy, you know, Goals. So that was my goal. My goal was to be rich. And I achieved that, and as one person said, the danger is not in setting your goals too high, but the danger is in setting your goals too low and then achieving them. And that's what happened to me, you know, I achieved the goal of 100,000 bucks. And that's it, I lost my motivation. And then I decided to move to Canada. And my next goal became, and I was also obsessed with this, my next goal was to move to Canada. And in order to achieve that, I had to collect 20,000 bucks, like to set aside 20,000 bucks. So I started, you know, I was kind of tired of real estate, but these last couple of deals I had let me set aside some money, because I figured, hey, 20,000 bucks would be enough for, you know, for at least initial time in a foreign country. So, and that's the part of being rich, not famous. No one knew me back then, but it was real easy. You know, back then, like when I was in real estate, the market was so non-spoiled. All you had to do was run one small ad in the Moscow Times newspaper. It's a free newspaper. It's still active in Moscow. And you can pick it up at any hotel, you know, many U.S. businesses. Moscow Times, and I think their website is moscowtimes.ru, R-U, Russia. So one ad was there for expats, apartments available, and I was running another ad in Izvestia, a Russian newspaper that many well-off Russians read. It was also a classified ad, you know. An American would rent an apartment, so people would call me. And I say, yeah, I have customers, you know, they're looking for apartments. I'm a broker. So, but then, of course, after like 5 or 6 years, the market became too saturated with brokers. And by that time, I got, you know, tired of real estate. That's when I came to Canada, I didn't want to do it. But now, and after I came to Canada, you know, my financial well-being started going down. Now I don't care too much about money. You see, back then, like I said, I was wearing expensive clothes. You see, now I'm sitting in my truck wearing safety boots. $18 jeans and a $10 t-shirt. And but now I have my YouTube channel, and maybe now it's time to, you know, get back to making money. So so it just reminded me, you know, how it's funny that people can know you, but, you know, you can you basically you're not making any money, you know, because trucking can be really bad in that regard, because you have so many expenses but not enough income. And I've been here since 7 o'clock this morning. Now it's what, it's like 5 hours now, right? And making a whole bunch of calls to my agent at Landstar, to Landstar customer service, to this guy in Pennsylvania, and finally something is moving. He said, okay, we're gonna figure it out either today or latest tomorrow. If you could sit there, we'll pay you 1 day detention. You know, it's like the story I've been hearing past, like, I don't know, month. All my loads require detention. And the agent says, how much money did you ask? I said, well, you told him 75 bucks an hour, so I don't know. I said maybe 500 bucks a day. And that, by the way, goes all to me, because I'm the guy losing here, right? And this guy, the agent says, well, it should be at least 750. I said, well, why don't you call him and ask him, you know, to confirm all these little details, because I'm not going to sit here till, like, after tomorrow, you know. So he says he's going to try to get something in writing from them, you know, to add, so that we can add this to the invoice. But that's my, you know, my little rant on being rich and famous. Like I said, you can be either rich and totally non-famous, and probably that's better for your financial well-being, or you can be famous or semi-famous, as in my my example, and you can have no money. So guys, don't try to be both rich and famous. Okay, choose something, one thing, and whatever you do, focus on one thing only. And by the way, that's probably been my problem, because even originally I started this business, went into trucking, and my plan was to be a company driver for 1 year, then an owner-operator for another, and then get my own authority and become totally independent. And somehow life screwed up all this. I got, you know, frustrated a bit with trucking, and each stage, instead of 1 year, took much longer. Like, I was a company driver for, I think, almost 2 years. Yeah, I started in 05, and I bought my truck in 07. And then I bought a trailer. It was the wrong trailer. I bought a topping system. It was a wrong topping system, and I'm still paying for it. Then I switched to this trailer. This is the wrong trailer again. Now finally I'm getting a right trailer, that 53 step with 3 axles, and my truck still works okay, to touch wood. So maybe now I can make some money. So thanks for watching. This was SERGEI DRATCHEV from Devon, Alberta, Canada. Stay safe.